Welcome to the Worship House Podcast. Our heart is that we would be a resource to your ministry and help launch you into your destiny and into your calling like never before. And so we hope and we pray that it blesses you. So welcome everybody to the Worship House Podcast. So excited for our guest today, and can't wait to just have my buddy David on the podcast today. Before we get going, I just want to give a quick thank you to our sponsor, OnSong. We love OnSong and what they're doing for worship leaders, musicians, and helping them as they prepare worship sets and communicate with their teams and all that stuff. It's amazing. If you want more info on OnSong, visit onsong.app. So there you go. It's a little shout out to OnSong, David. And
Love it.
but man,
That was
I'm
good.
so happy to have you on. Yeah, man, there's not many people that I appreciate more than you, dude, and I'm just so grateful to just have this conversation and you know what you carry, what you've done for worship, and I've told you this a million times, but you're one of my all-time favorite worship leaders. I get stoked every time you're leading, and it's funny too. My kids too, if they know you're going to be leading, everyone's like, "Oh right, man, David." Like, my whole house like gets so
That's
stoked,
awesome.
dude, and yeah, man, we just love you, and
Well, you know I love you. I mean, I love you. I love your family. I just love everything, you know, about who you are. You just, if you don't know Phil and you're watching this personally, I encourage you somehow figure out a way to, because he is just the most fun person. Like with Phil, it's always a party. Like
oh,
no
come
matter
on,
what, like
man.
we're gonna figure out like how are we gonna make this the most fun, vibrant thing that we can? And that's Phil Herndon. That's
Oh,
what I
yeah,
love
man.
about him.
No, we've got to have fun, dude. We've got
Yeah,
to find,
you
we
got
got to
to.
find a way. Yeah, man, it's amazing. I wanted to just, my glasses keep fogging up. It's like hot in my office here. Um, I wanted to just have you just tell a little bit of your story, for those that don't. Did you get a new tattoo? Oh no, oh that was your hand there.
This one is the newest one here.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Come on.
yeah.
Well, to tell your story a little bit, like where you come from. I mean, um, yeah, you've got such a great story, and you've been in ministry for so long, and all the things. But just share a little bit with us. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, briefly, I'll share. I grew up in Lafayette, Louisiana. So if you know the show Swamp People, my house was like 30 minutes from the Atchafalaya Basin, which is where they record all the things. So I'm like through and through Cajun in my heart, right? And that really, I feel like, led me to a lot of who I am today. I know that's a funny way to say it, but like, if you know Cajun culture, they've got their own music, they've got their own foods. It's like you don't even feel like you are in the United States of America, honestly. You feel like you're in a different country. And I think, honestly, that influenced a lot of the way I am in music, even in worship, in ministry. I just do things a little bit differently. I do things kind of to the beat of my own drum. And I think that had a lot to do with my upbringing and my culture. Now, on the other side of that, I was kind of raised in, and this wasn't by my parents, but more just the culture that we were in, super, uh, there's no other way to say it, uptight religious, Pentecostal kind of vibe. So um, I just always was kind of fighting against that, even at a young age, not really knowing there was anything else out there, but I was just always like, I don't like it. There was just like, I was like, this feels icky to me. And
Yeah.
I always really had this desire in my heart to know the Lord and to know his ways and to know creativity. And it's interesting, as I got older, I stumbled upon some music. We know some of these guys that really have influenced us over the years, but like Leonard Jones and Susie Rai, Don Potter, and like Jason Upton, like some of these guys, I just was like, who are they and how do I get in their orbit, And
Yeah.
that really led me down a whole path of where I am now. I never really thought I was going to do worship. I always thought maybe, okay, maybe I'll speak, maybe I'll do this and that. But like just finding them transformed my life and made me start really pursuing worship. And I remember there would be times we had these little rooms in our church. They were, for lack of a better term, I really don't have a better term. This was what they were. They were nursing mothers rooms.
Yeah.
And so during the week, I would go in there and blast this music and just like listen to worship and pray and cry and laugh and dance. And that's really where I learned to worship. I learned about the Lord. I learned about the Holy Spirit, was just kind of being there and just enjoying the Lord
Yeah.
and knowing him and developing a sound with him. And it was awesome. And so that's kind of where everything began. Um, and launched me into, a beautiful, adventurous life with the Lord and ministry and worship and creativity. And so, yeah, it was a beautiful experience that I'm so grateful for. And yeah, that's kind of a quick synopsis of my
Yeah.
younger years and how I got to where I am.
Yeah, yeah. And you were at Morningstar for a long time, right? Then and then
Yes, yeah. So in 2005, I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina to be a part of Morningstar and their School of Ministry. And
yeah,
so 2005 to 2007, I was in the School of Ministry. And then I would say a little bit after that, like 2007 through like 2011, 12, I felt like those were my years of like sowing my oats and figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. Some of that was just being like, you know what? Forget God and forget this and that. I'm going to
yeah,
go do what I want to do. And that those years definitely happened. Um, and then there was a lot of in and out. Like there would be times I'd be like, I'm totally in. I'm
yeah,
back with the
yeah,
Lord. And then other times I'd be like,
yeah,
you know what? This seems fun. I'm going to go do that. And so,
yeah,
typical young figuring stuff out. But then around 2013, thanks to, and I say this all the time, there's a really good friend of mine. She's a worship legend without ever really getting any of the credit.
yeah.
Her name is Molly Williams. She snatched me out of
Wow,
all of my silliness and called me out and was like, "You are meant to walk in more."
wow.
And so she pulled me out of a lot of that, and I'm forever grateful because that year is the year I met my wife. That's the year I came on staff at Morningstar. And at
Wow,
that point,
man.
when I say on staff, I was really just her assistant, had no power, had no authority, had no whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
But like that was the year my life changed for the better, and I'm so grateful for it. And then I think around 2014 or 15, I became the worship director at Morningstar,
yeah, man.
which to me I still to this day can't believe I got that job. That was a dream job for me. And so I became the worship director at Morningstar, then became the communications director, which was the media, the marketing, the publications. We had our own publication company, all that kind of stuff. It became the conference director, became all the directors of Morningstar
Yeah, yeah,
for a good little bit. And then around 2021, I finally felt from the Lord that it was time to move on. And so I left Morningstar at that point, and then joined Awaken the Dawn, and then still with them now.
yeah.
And so, yeah,
That
just
that's the season. I feel like I kind of met you right at that season where you're transitioning out of Morningstar, and
yeah, you did, yeah,
yeah, man, that's amazing. Dude, I didn't know, like, I had the same season too, where I was in Bible college and I was there and I'm learning and I was like, I'm not sure I believe this. You
right,
know what I mean? Like in the middle of it. And I kind of ran from that for a long season. I went and I got my degree in record producing and was like, I'll never do worship. I'll never do ministry or anything like that.
right.
There was like that season, you know.
Well,
Um,
it's funny because I feel like, especially nowadays,
yeah,
with all the, everybody digging up everybody's stuff, and just like I'm going to do an expose video on you, that next big thing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Everyone's afraid to like ever admit this kind of stuff, but it's like
Right.
this is life, y'all. Like
Yeah, yeah,
a lot of us have gone through this journey, and honestly, I look back at that and I'm like, I'm so glad I went through that.
yeah,
I'm so glad that because it developed me, it helped me,
Yeah.
really understand what I wanted in life, and which
Yeah.
was the Lord. And everything else was so unsatisfactory. It was so blah.
Yeah.
God is so much better, and I'm just so
Yeah, man.
grateful I went through that. So I talk about those days with zero shame, because
Yeah. It's good.
the Lord rescued me from that, and I'm so happy.
Yeah, man. And for me too, it was like I was dealing with like my dad was a pastor, and so I was dealing with like I'm not my dad, you know what I mean? And so I
Right,
remember in that season I was like, I'm not my dad, I'm not my brother, I'm me, and I don't want to do this, just because you
right.
guys. And so yeah, there was all that stuff for me, but I'm so glad that I had that season as well, and yeah, and I'm even grateful for some of the decisions like running from I was running from the church right into record producing, which I've used like my entire life as a worship pastor. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
yeah, God just like kind of redeems all that stuff and it's amazing.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, buddy. Well, I'm glad. I'm excited just to talk about this topic. I feel like today we're talking about, you're finding your sound. I feel like that's something that you've done so well. It's like I remember I was describing to somebody, actually Gable Price, when we were at our first we did our first conference, remember the first wind worship school. And
Hmm.
I'm describing to Gable, I'm like, I'm trying to describe your sound. And I was like, and he was like, well, what is, and then I was like, well, you just kind of have to experience it. You have to experience. And I
Right.
remember after the set, he was like, you were right. It's amazing. He's like, you just have to experience it. And I think for me, the, you know, you, having your own sound is pretty few and far between in the worship movement this day and age. I feel
Hmm.
like my thought, what I find as I go to churches is everyone's trying to recreate something, the Bethel sound or
Hmm.
the upper room sound or Jesus image or there's all the stuff now and they're great and they're amazing, but it's really rare when you find a church that is or a worship community or whatever that is just like, you know, pursuing what God has for them, like
Right. Right.
in their area and their season, and I think I'm excited to talk to you about that because somehow you've done such an amazing job of staying true to who you are, and to your sound, and you've drawn amazing people around you and all that stuff. And you know, tell me this. So you talked a little bit about your sound and where it came from, but tell me, like, can you describe it, like what you do? Is it something that's intentional? Is it just something that it naturally comes out of you, or what anything like that?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of both of those things. Like I feel like I have always really loved like very just big, lots of space sounds.
Yeah.
And when I say big, when you're in the worship space, you're thinking big, like the big cymbals.
Right, right,
That's
right,
not me.
right.
I don't mind going there, but that's not my default.
You're not into the big cymbal washout build things anymore.
Um, you know, what's funny? A little side note. What's
Yeah.
funny? I'm starting to get an appreciation for them at the right time.
Yeah, yeah.
At the right time. The
It
right
can
time.
be epic, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To
I was
do.
just somewhere, and it was one of those moments where it was like it hit right at the right time, and I was like, "Oh, okay, I see it now." I'm
Yeah,
like, I
yeah.
get it, like the cymbal wash. But anyway, like I love big like synth and
Yeah.
but not like cheesy synth, like really well, um, like thought out synth, if that makes sense. I
Yeah, yeah.
really like drums that are in the pocket. I really like really nice, clean guitar parts that like think like Erica Badu meets I don't know like M83. I don't know how to
Yeah,
to
yeah.
put it all together, but like
That one actually got me though. The Erica Badu one.
hey,
That's
listen,
amazing, dude.
I'm all about like some groove and worship.
Yeah.
It can make some people uncomfortable, but I'm like, get used to it. It's music. But
Yeah.
um, but anyway, yeah. So like, I think some of the sound is definitely intentional. Some of the sound I think just naturally happens,
Yeah.
and Me and the guys that I've surrounded myself with, it's like we kind of bleed that sound. It's really interesting because all of us have that same love for the specific sound that we kind of carry.
Yeah.
And everywhere I go, I mean, you can ask all the guys there. I'm sure a lot of people, they all associate this guy with me now. But Sam.
Yeah.
Everywhere we go, people are like, "Who is that? And how is he doing that?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you know what I'm talking about, like, I mean, literally every place we go to, they're like, "What is? How is he creating this stuff?" And then
Right.
when I have like my full band, which is rare, but when I have my full band, like John, Will,
Yeah.
Sam, Phil, all these guys, they're all so in sync and all creating together on the fly,
Yeah.
that like it's just I haven't really seen it done like that, really with anyone else. But there's such a unity there, and there's such a connection. And so anyway, all that to say is that the sound is very unique. It is very creative, but at the same time, I feel like it has been cultivated, in a place of friendship, in a place of like
Yeah. That's
intention,
good.
in a place of, let me just say this for worship leaders that are listening, of listening to other music outside of worship.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, like I was talking to a musician the other day. I won't say who, but very well known, plays a certain instrument,
This is gonna
and
be fun. I'm gonna be guessing this one.
yeah,
Yeah.
plays a certain instrument, and people really always are like, "Wow, this person."
Yeah.
And I was asking, I said, "What do you listen to?"
Yeah.
Like music wise. And it was just like, Bethel, Upper Room, Jeremy Riddle, all great people. Love, know a bunch of people but I was like, oh, so nothing else? He was like, oh, no, no. I was like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I was
know,
like,
man.
it was interesting. And I get it. And by the way, if you're watching this and you're like, well, I have a conviction to only listen to worship music, that's fine. I understand
Yeah.
that. I don't want to, however, on the opposite side of the coin, I also want to say if you don't have that conviction, listen to other music
Yeah. Yeah.
because there's something to pull from, there's something to draw from,
Yeah.
and you can get really inspired to then um, spark creativity in you. So anyway, I'm going on a tangent here,
Well, no,
but
dude, I actually feel like if you're gonna be call you a worship leader, a musician, or whatever, the thing is that like it's almost a responsibility. So you're being so nice about it, but we have to start opening ourselves up to different music, to different genres, to different
yes,
things. And actually, the first thing I do, and I've taken criticism for this, but when I come into like a worship ministry, the first thing I do is send all the musicians like my favorite guitar, like a guitarist, I send like my favorite guitarist. You know what I mean? Like
hmm
it's amazing, to be able to actually hear what the worship movement is trying to, emulate. You know what I mean?
right, right,
And so yeah, I I actually feel like it's a necessity. As a worship musician, if that's a call of God on your life, then you have a call to steward it. And
yes,
that for me, that's a part of stewarding it, is
yes,
listening to other things like yeah. And I think that hits on one of the biggest problems with why worship kind of is sounding so stale is because we have a lot of worship leaders, musicians that all they know is the sound of worship. And so we're kind of like
right,
keep recreating watered down versions of this thing. And I don't want to dive too deep too quick, but like yeah,
right.
it's a lot.
No, I agree. I agree. And I think, well, anyway, I'll go on a tangent. I want to see what you have next before I say what I was going to say.
No, man, I love it. I want to hear all the stuff that you have. So this is important, man. This is an important
Yeah,
conversation, and it's one that I keep finding that we're not talking about a ton in worship. As I'm like in this season for me, where I'm just kind of diving in all worship. I don't hear many people saying, "Hey, it's okay to have your own sound." Like
right, right.
and I sit down with different worship leaders who are like, "Hey, I just want to be like I want to sound like Abby Gamboa or whatever." And she's sweet, and I think that's
Amazing. Yeah.
amazing to want to do. But then my question is always like, well, what does the Lord want you to sound like? You know,
Right.
what does he put in your heart? Like let's release that. Let Abby be Abby, and then let you be you. You know, because
Well,
yeah,
a lot of times my response to people that will say a specific worship leader or whatever,
yeah,
my response to them is, I guarantee you that worship leader doesn't want you to be like
right. That's
sound
it.
like that. I guarantee you.
Yeah,
Be inspired by them all day, absolutely.
yeah,
But you have your own sound. And
yeah,
I think one of the things that is especially with the next gen, like so kids like our kids age,
yeah, yeah,
and people who have even younger kids or whatever, Gen Z, Gen Alpha.
yeah,
There's a message being put out there a little bit, which has some good intention, but it's not being pastored through.
yeah,
Um, so by these big movements that are, and I've noticed they're putting things out, but there's no mechanism in place. It's really not their fault, but there's no mechanism in place to like pastor it through. Because all you can really do is on social media or when you're streaming your services, kind of put out this big broad stroke without really being able to break it down within the construct of community, right?
yeah, yeah,
You kind of have to be there to understand, and a lot of the millions and millions that are being influenced by this aren't able to do that. So what I'm trying to say is there's this thing that and this phrase, and I've talked to you about it, that I hear over and over, and I'm kind of at the point of nauseum hearing it. But
yeah.
it's the purity, it's the worship is pure. It's pure worship. And here's the formula for pure worship. The
Wow.
formula is you got to start with a song about Thanksgiving, then you got to do a praise song, and then you got to do like a really heavy song, and then and I'm like, okay, yes, and there actually is, and I want to go ahead and say this, there actually is biblical precedence
Yeah,
to what they are saying. It's very simple. In the Psalms, it says, enter his gates with thanksgiving, his courts with praise, and then everything after that, beautiful.
yeah,
And that's true. So if you're wondering what's the correct process of worship, that is the correct process of worship. However, there are, I guarantee you, I want to just say this. I'm saying with passion because I want you to know this. There are a large portion of people who really have a heart for God, who want to understand God, who want to sing to God, who want to know about God and worship God, that have absolutely no idea of the correct process. And for us to call them unpure is stupid.
yeah, yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
to let that rest for a second. Okay, so to look at someone that is trying real hard in a little Presbyterian church on the corner in a town of 500,
Yeah,
and they aren't necessarily doing that order correctly, and you're like, well, you know what? The worship isn't vertical. Well,
yeah,
get over yourself. Guess what? They are trying, and the Lord is pleased
yeah, man.
because the Lord's looking down and saying, look at that. They can barely sing. They
Yeah,
may not even know what they're doing. They may not even be singing the right theology, but they're trying.
yeah,
You know, now, yes, is there worship out there that is unpure and like, and just kind of when you listen to it, it's like, man, this really isn't even about the Lord. Yeah, I've heard it.
yeah.
I've heard it. But I just want to put this out here as this is out there in the cosmos, this
Mhm.
this idea of pure worship, and these people are pure and these people aren't pure, and like we must constantly assess. I just want to remind everyone that we are not God
Right.
and that we have no idea at the end of the day what pleases him outside of the scriptures. Like the scriptures obviously lay that out. But again, I just want to remind people a lot of times people don't have that understanding, but they have the desire. And the Lord, according to the scripture, since
Yeah,
we're talking about it, says that his eyes are seeking for those who will worship him in spirit and in truth. In truth, in my opinion, means in their heart. It doesn't mean through in spirit and in correct formula.
yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't not mean spirit and in what we consider purity. It's in spirit and in truth. And
yeah,
so I think that sometimes what we are trying to do in the church, especially in the charismatic church, and especially right now,
yeah,
where there's a need for reform, there is a need for purity, there is a need for calling things out and saying we've got to do better. However, we cannot get so religious and staunch about it that then we're starting to alienate other people that we don't deem as pure.
right.
Because then that leads us into a whole nother religious spirit.
Yeah, dude. Dude,
It actually leads us into being a Pharisee,
yeah, that's it,
which
man.
the Lord hates.
Come
So
on.
anyway, I hope that encourages you today.
No, dude, it is. And I think well, this is a huge part of the problem and why, this conversation's important, but it's like in people are strive like a lot of these young worship leaders, a lot of these people in the churches that you described are walking away from it because they can't live up to this standard of purity when their heart is like pure before the Lord. And it's
Exactly.
creating a pressure on the worship movement. And what happens is, and I see this with sometimes pastors talking to their worship leaders, like, hey, we want to go after this. We want to go after this purity, this movement, this sound, okay, and which is amazing. But in the process, you've got people striving for purity, and
Hmm.
it's having the opposite effect. And so it's like you know worship from what Jesus is doing in your heart. Let,
Exactly.
let
And
that flow. Yeah.
and that's a great point. I was just somewhere and we were doing I was kind of talking with our worship for community, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, another one of the things that is really in vogue right now within the church, and I think it's absolutely right and appropriate, is the ministry to the Lord, right?
Yeah.
So we're ministering to the Lord. It's vertical. Um, which I think is good. I think that was missing from the church for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Um, and however, I feel like we're starting to veer again. Once again, we're starting to get a little too focused on that, and there's no space because I was in a set with them, and uh, I was noticing we're only seeing vertically, but we're not really allowing the Lord space to speak back.
Wow. Yeah.
And so I spoke with them about it and I said, hey, I said, here's a beautiful thing about ministry to the Lord. I was like, you can minister to the Lord and be vertical and be vertical and be vertical all day. But I want to ask you a question. Are we as communities asking the Lord in the midst of our ministry to the Lord, what do you want to do or speak or say right now? I
Yeah.
said, a lot of times what I'm observing, actually almost everywhere I go, what I'm observing is just like constantly just singing like, glory you are. And I'm like, for 1 second, can we just stop singing um, spontaneous songs, which by the
Yeah.
way are usually just other people's
Yeah.
spontaneous songs, which is
Yeah.
blowing my mind, but that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
just like going from chorus to chorus, but slowing that chorus down and singing that chorus over and over for 30 minutes until we get to a big crescendo just to go into another chorus. Like,
Yeah.
yes, that is all beautiful. However, maybe sometimes the Lord wants just the music, or maybe sometimes the Lord wants us to sing over ourselves, or maybe
Yeah.
the Lord wants to us to sing over a person in that audience. And surprise, this is all ministry to the Lord.
Yeah, man. Come on, dude.
That's what's so beautiful. We cannot limit it to one box. And again, I
Yeah.
don't think the intent of people who are putting this out there is for this, like that it's only this way.
Right.
But and here's the importance of being a part of a community that's healthy and that works with you and that understands these kinds of things, is that when something is being put out on such a big, broad stroke, you can take the extremes of it and run with it and then realize, man, I'm doing a lot of damage. Here's how you can get out of that and avoid that is plug yourself in to healthy community where
Yeah.
you actually can be pastored through and guided through. And then obviously in your personal relationship, you've got two things that are guiding you: the scriptures and the Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
which points you to Jesus and the Father, right? It's all one big, beautiful process.
Yeah, man.
So that's your personal life. But then in your community, you've got people that are older, wiser than you, which by the way, worship folks, listen, you do not cap out of worship in your 30s. In fact, if you are 30, 40, 50, stay in it because we need mature worship leaders and worship people that are speaking into this generation
Yeah.
that is saying some of these broad stroke things that honestly we're going to see. And I think in about 5 or 10 years, people saying we're going the new wave of deconstruction from that if we don't
Yeah. Yeah.
handle this correctly.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if we
Yeah.
don't handle this correctly, we're going to be dealing with a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
So us older ones, I'm going to be 39 this year, and so I guess I'm old, um, and I don't mind it. I like kind of being older. Um, but like my goal is now not to be the next thing. Like I'm not trying to like like, yeah, I'm still going to release music. I'm still doing my thing. I'm still me.
Yeah.
But like my joy is coming and coming alongside the 20-year-old, 21-year-old and saying, hey man, like here's some things that I see in you. Here's some things I think that you can work on. Here's some things I think you're a little off on. Here's some things I think you're doing right.
Yeah,
And like,
dude.
let's walk through this. And like, we need more of that.
Yep.
And we need to be able to help and to guide, and community is so important in the whole aspect of this because you get grounded and you get solid theology
Yeah,
um,
man.
that can be challenged, that could be encouraged, all the things. So I just really want to encourage you if you're a worship leader and you're having some of these things that you're processing, man, find a good community and plug in.
Yeah, man. Dude, it's so good too. Even I always, I talk about this a lot, but there's worship so unique because, well, like, let's say pastoral ministry, you don't really age out of. Like, the older you
Hmm.
get, like the just more, wisdom you have or whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
But worship's so unique because there's this like unspoken thing that as you get older, you can't do it anymore. And I've seen so
Hmm.
many people with so much, maybe the platform's gone, but the call of God to still invest, still raise up worship and be a worship leader and all that stuff is still on your life. And so the older generation, feel like they naturally feel like they have to move on from worship. But I feel the Lord like on that, man, like that
Well,
God's calling fathers and mothers to get back in it in the worship movement,
yeah,
So
well, one of the things I think that's missing in the worship space, there is some, but there needs to be more, is just like mature worship.
yeah.
Like just like because I don't want to, I really don't want to sound like one of those old heads that's just like, back in my day, it was,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
But honestly,
yeah.
I have not felt really mature worship in a while.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that even with me, but like I used to be in these sets with people like a Don Potter.
Hmm.
Man, I'm telling you, I remember there's this one set. I have to send it to you. It's like, in my opinion, the greatest worship set I've ever seen because it's this whole thing of it's like this powerful moment of like the Lord just really begins to kind of like just take over musically. There's not a lot being sung, but then there's this time where he like calls out worship leaders and then begins to give them this like almost like a, I don't know how to describe it, like this charge into their calling. And but it's like he goes over like things you got to do, things you got to avoid, all singing
Yeah.
this. And like
Amazing.
you at the end of it, you felt, I saw the Lord, I'm commissioned. I like know the next 5, 10 years of my life. You literally felt like after that set, you were like, that was beyond human ability, what
Wow.
just happened here. And
Yeah.
I've never really encountered worship like that um, very often. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of, obviously big moments which are beautiful. And, I think we can
Wow.
really do the high praise thing really well. But man, I think sometimes there is so much more that the Lord wants to do in worship.
Yeah.
Like that, like you could literally walk away and walk out of a room when you're being led with someone by someone who is really walking in maturity, and you could get out of that worship set something that would take 5 years.
Yeah, dude.
You
It's
know what I mean?
amazing.
Like
Yeah.
it's supernatural,
Yeah.
and I think it's needed. And so I want to encourage anyone that's watching this, if you are a father, mother, or as I consider myself, a weird uncle in the worship space,
Yeah, yeah.
stay in it, man.
Yeah.
And like the key is like, I'll say this too. I have seen some worship leaders that are older and are more advanced that kind of are losing the plot a little bit as well. They're still trying to be an artist when I really need a father. I need a mom. I need a guide. That's not being the priority. And I just kind of want to say, like, you can do both.
Yeah.
But like the fathering and mothering and mentoring needs to come up in your priority.
That's good.
I'm not saying lose the artistry, but I'm saying that we're in that phase where the ability to empower the next generation while we're still doing our thing um, is a joy, and it
Yeah.
should be a joy, and it should be a priority in our lives. So I want to encourage you, like, and go after that. So
Dude,
anyway, that was another tangent.
no, I love that one. These are important, man. That's what I want is just you just to share this stuff 'cause it's so important. The last time I felt what you were describing though was when Martin Smith came in to the church.
Mhm.
And dude, it was that. It was this intangible thing that you were like, "Oh my
Yeah,
gosh." Like I'm being I'm being fathered right now. And like it's just worship. It's just did you feel the mountains tremble? But
right.
just I don't know what he carries, what he's walked through, and all that stuff, man. That's amazing. I want to tell this story too. You mentioned a little. I did this just hit me, but you mentioned how sometimes we're not leaving room in our sets to hear from God. It's like just like
Yeah,
so like yeah, vertical, like almost frantically vertical, which is amazing. But
that's a great way to put it. Frantically vertical.
yeah,
Yes.
it's like it gets that place where it's like if I'm not doing this, we're messing up, and we better
Right.
just keep it going, And which yeah, what about hearing from the Lord? And I remember this in one. Well, you were leading worship at it was a conference or something you were in for me, and it was there was this moment. I don't know if you remember it, but it was just so obvious that you were hearing from the Lord. Like it's a dance party. We're going crazy. The whole place. There might have been a train around. I think there was a girl on roller skates.
Yes, I do remember the roller skates. Yes.
It just got there, dude. But in the middle of all of that, you saw it was one of my good buddies. You saw him and his sons. And you stopped like everything and had you didn't know this guy at all. And he's a good buddy of mine. And you had him come up on stage and you had his sons run to him in worship. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And
And I
dude,
didn't know they were. I didn't know they were father and
uh,
son,
oh,
right?
you didn't? Oh,
I
dude.
don't think so.
And he was a Marine. This guy, they're both Marines, and his son just got back, and you did this whole thing. Dude, I cried, I cry a lot, but I really cried a good one on that. But there was this moment, and the whole church knew that there was this thing where his son was just returning from, war. And you, in the middle of craziness, in the middle of what felt like just like a wild thing, you heard from the Lord. You were able to create a moment that took the whole congregation that knew Greg, and his name's Greg, whatever. You're like trying not to say his name, but they knew the story. You know what I mean?
Right.
And dude, like I remember afterwards being like to everyone on the worship team, like hey, take notes because that was like that was such an example of leaving room to do the high praise, to have fun, to do all this stuff, but also God, what are you saying? Because there's moments that we're missing, there's things that God wants to do, there's freedom that God wants to unleash, but we have to actually listen, we have to actually hear in order to have those things. And I just feel like you model that so insanely well, and that moment impacted me forever. And not just because he's like one of my close friends, and all the things. It just yeah, how you stewarded that. I just had to share that story while you were
I
talking. It hit
totally,
me.
I totally forgot about that. And yeah, I remember, I remember the girl on the rollerblades.
Yeah,
That like triggered the memory.
yeah,
But yeah, I didn't know that they were father and son. I remember calling the guy up,
yeah,
and I said, I think I was like, hey, you come up here, and then I was
yeah,
like, you guys come up here. I was like, so the prodigals are coming home because yeah, some I can't
yeah.
remember what,
It was
but
something like that. Yeah, man.
yeah, and I remember you coming up to me afterward and telling me like you have no idea what you just did.
Yeah,
And but that's the beautiful thing about the Lord, man. It's like in moments like those, like you're like in my head, I'm like, what the heck am I doing? Like if
yeah,
I can just give some insight. Like a lot of times when I'm doing that kind of thing, people think people are like, man, the prophetic insight. I'm like, ah,
yeah,
I'm gonna be honest. I thought the whole time, like, what the heck am I doing? Am I gonna get in trouble? David, you're so stupid. Like,
yeah,
why are you doing this?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
That's so
and
awesome.
but like that's the beauty of the Lord, man.
Yeah,
He's just so good. And to see those people and to know that situation,
dude.
like that's all. It's only he could do it.
Dude, well, yeah, I mean, I have story after story of that too, because even you found worship leaders in the ministry I was pastoring at that time that I didn't know existed by in the middle of a worship set going up to someone random in the crowd and letting them like just sing whatever's on their heart. Like you've done that kind of stuff too. And like all of a
Wow.
sudden I'd be like, "Oh my gosh." And
Yeah.
people have
Where were
entered
you?
into worship like as a worship leader because of you taking a moment to take the mic and give it to someone. So yeah. What were you saying?
That's
Sorry.
so cool, man. That's so cool.
Yeah, dude, it's so it's needed and I love it too because it's not like like I love what you're saying. It's not like vertical worship's bad or sounding like someone else is bad. It's just like it's like we need to have all of it, but we need to make room. We need to remember that God wants to speak to us, that He wants
Yes.
us to release like what He's put in our heart, but He wants us to hear Him in our worship sets and create the space for that. So that's
Yes.
amazing, man.
And I think just final thought on this
Yeah.
is that like there's not it's none of it is like you said, none of it is bad. It's actually very good and needed.
Yeah.
I think the thing that I'm pushing for across the whole body of Christ is that we do not get locked into what we think formulaically is correct, and
Yeah.
then get in the spot of where we're like, if it's not like this, it's not the Lord, because I just think that's where we get in danger,
Man, that's good.
and that's all I'm saying. I think it's beautiful to have the what's the word I'm looking for? The focus on ministry to the Lord. I think it's right and it's
Yeah.
good, and
Yep. That's good.
but we cannot despise the other expressions of worship.
Yeah. Come on, man.
We need to celebrate it, is what that's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And some people hear it as like, well, why are you against it? I'm not against it, you guys. I do it myself.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
big part of what I do is the ministry to the Lord thing.
Yeah.
However, I also want to go to that Presbyterian church, which I went just a couple weeks ago to a Presbyterian church where
Mhm.
everyone literally stands like statues
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
have no idea if you said ministry to the Lord, they'd be like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. And I felt the Lord there.
Yeah, man. That's good.
It's not pure, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Come on, man.
So that's all I'm saying.
Dude, it's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah. Like we kind of, without trying in the worship movement, especially, we kind of like will outcast the expressions for all the expressions of worship for what's trending right now in worship.
Right.
And the trending thing could be a beautiful thing, but we can't outcast what's been and the other expressions just because uh yeah, something is trending in the season or the moment and stuff. And that's why like a lot of times like a lot of what I do is just uh like talk to worship leaders about how they feel like they have no one, like
Right.
so many. And
Right.
that's what these are the reasons why it's not like super hard to figure out when you look at it. It's like, yeah, I can't live up to a standard that I don't even feel like is the call of God on my life or whatever it is. So
Right.
um have you I wanted to just there's one question. Oh yeah, then I want to give just so you give some practical advice, and then we can go. But have you ever felt I'm interested in this one, but have you ever felt the pressure to change your sound to because you've run with so many people, Bethel crew and all the things, have you ever felt that pressure to sound a certain way to in your time?
Um, I think it would be a yes and no, because the reason I say yes and no is that there was a time where I was like, man, I've got it. I've got the capability to be, you know,
Right.
for the big dogs.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I'm
for
like, to
sure.
do that, I've got to change. I've got to adjust. I've got to, be a little bit more palatable.
Yeah.
Um, but here's the thing, that won't let me do that myself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
I honestly figured that about you, but yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, and so any of the times I try to do it, I'm like, it's not me.
yeah,
And I do want to go ahead and make the statement too, because I feel like sometimes when I say that kind of thing, people are like, yeah, like they get like almost this angst. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna just do whatever I want to do, blah, blah.
Yeah, yeah.
I do want to encourage you that are, a worship leader, creative. There is a balance. There's a balance. Like I'm finding right now, I'm writing a bunch of new songs right now, and
Mm.
I'm finding this balance of like my creativity, my expression, our unique sound, but the beauty of bringing in a little bit more accessibility with intention, something I really haven't done before.
That's
And
cool.
I'm just being honest. Like I've just in the past written, like I've probably written one song that is like worldwide accessible, and that's Sovereign, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And but all my other songs, they're very much they're niche. Like they're. I know that most people won't be singing them, but they'll listen to them
Yeah, yeah.
and they'll be like, "This is cool."
Right,
Um,
right.
you know what I mean? And so I'm finding this balance right now of keeping my sound, but also like I'm like, oh, these are some things that people can actually latch on to, but it takes intention on my part
That's good, man.
to write that way without losing myself.
Yeah, yeah.
So so yes, in the past there have been times where I have felt, man, maybe I should change, but I just have not ultimately allowed myself to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad. I'm glad I've stayed true to myself. A friend of mine, and I'm sure a lot of us know this guy, John Mark McMillan, told me one time years ago, and I don't know if this was a prophetic word or just an insight, but honestly, it's made so much sense to me in my life. He said to me, he said, David, he said, you are like the plight of your life will be that you are an influencer of influencers. He was like you are going to be someone that like all the guys know, all the musicians know, all the worship leaders know, whatever, like, and they're going to hear your stuff and you're going to inspire them to be like brave enough to do new things,
Yeah, man. That's
but
true.
like on a more polished and known level. He's like, but you're the one kind of brave enough to do your own thing unashamedly.
Yeah.
That gives some of the people of big influence
Yeah.
the permission to do new stuff that maybe you've already been doing. Like
Yeah.
I'll just be honest, like I don't care how this sounds. It's just the truth. That's why I'm saying it.
Yeah.
Like I'm watching now and I'm noticing like loops and like the kind of stuff the stuff that we've been doing
Forever.
forever
Yeah, man. Yeah.
is
I hear it
now
too.
just
Yeah.
coming out, and people are like, "Oh my God, like this is groundbreaking!" And I'm sitting over here, my arms folded, and they're like, "I've been doing this," just being honest. Like
No,
I don't
dude,
care how that comes across.
that's true, man. That's
It's just
true.
true.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for since 2020,
Yeah.
2019. Just really leaning into that sound.
Yeah.
Um, and but I'm like, I'm glad it's having its day.
Yeah.
I'm totally glad it's having its day. But I'm like, and I have different worship leaders text me and be like, dude, you pioneered this. You like, I've been sending your music around to some of these guys that are actually doing it for
Yeah. Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
and like you definitely influenced it. And so I know that kind of stuff. And honestly, I've gone from a place of being like, oh man, like I need to change my sound, or oh man, I missed out, to honestly finding that to be an honor.
Yeah, man. It is.
Like it is. It's an honor to me to be like, that's awesome that I'm able to influence that way, even if I never get the credit, even if I never,
Yeah.
whatever. That's just cool to me because I'm like, that's what the Lord has put on my life. And yes, there are gonna be little pockets and moments where the Lord will highlight me. I believe that,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
and but I'm also good if he doesn't.
Yeah.
Um, And so, anyway, all that to say is stay authentic to your own sound, even if you're tempted to change it,
Yeah.
because that's where the joy is, and that's where the Lord's really going to move in the midst of your own sound.
Yeah,
You might
man.
be tempted, and it's cool to pull from influence, but the Lord wants you. He wants your sound. He wants your voice. So, anyway.
Yeah. Dude, you've stewarded that so well. Honestly, man, in all sincerity, like, um, yeah, you've stewarded that. You've walked with it. And even like I feel like with you that it's just so impressive to me is that you've remained steadfast, like in your heart for the Lord. Everything. like when even people around you, I feel like haven't, and you I don't know. It's just it's inspiring, man, what you've done and the sound you create. I was joking with my daughter the one day because talking about doing one of your songs, and I was like, which is would be impossible for me, you know what I mean?
Right.
But but it's just it's inspired me so much, and like, and your stuff's the stuff I sing around the house, and you know what I mean, and so it just you've done an amazing job at it, man, and
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Well, hopefully these next round of songs that I'm about to get out there, when I say about to, who knows, it could be a
yeah,
year,
yeah,
but I really think these are going to be the first ones outside of Sovereign that could be in that same
that's amazing,
thing,
man.
but it's me. And I'm actually really excited about it. It's a whole new venture for me.
Dude, it's all I
So,
did. I'm
so
excited. Can't wait. Can't wait. Well, tell me this as we'll wrap up here, but um, okay, so let's just say any advice for a worship leader maybe who's listening to this who has feels like they have the sound in them but they don't know where to start. They've got a
yeah.
worship team of all these people and all they know is creating what's popular right now. Like, is there any advice for hey, how do we start to step into sounding like like us and what the Lord has for our ministry, and anything you have for that?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, a huge way to do this is, and I know these are popping up all over the place, but man, if you can, like, let's say you're involved with the church, if you can start a worship room or a prayer room,
Yeah,
and when I say prayer room, I'm not talking about like 24/7 strict hours, blah, blah. I'm talking about just a space where you guys can go and love on the Lord together, and like there's no rules, and
that's
that's a great space to try things out.
yeah, man,
Um,
that's good.
and and so I would encourage you, if you have that capability, to utilize that. Obviously, your number one priority in that is to love on the Lord, and but in the midst of that, there is this opportunity to bring new songs, new sounds, new things. Try that.
Yeah,
On another thing I will say too is obviously ask permission of your pastor and your leaders.
yeah,
Um, I know worship musicians, we don't like to hear that, but man, honor is everything. And I can dig into that more, but there's a whole process there. Even
yeah,
if you don't see eye to eye, good conversations are where it starts. And then you can just ask simple questions. Hey, can we try this out in the prayer room? Because a lot of times we want to be like, hey, we want to try this on a Sunday morning. Don't do that.
that's
Try it.
good, man.
There's
That's good.
different avenues. But anyway,
Yeah,
uh, I digress. So
yeah,
that's one way. If you don't have the capability to do prayer room or worship room kind of situations, get together with your friends and just jam, just like have a good time.
yeah,
And that could be in the worship sense, or that could be in just music. Just enjoy what you're doing with your friends. Surround yourself with creativity and good musicians and and bounce ideas off of each other, and like don't be afraid to have a really crappy song. You That's good. It's how you learn. I was just telling a group, the same group I referenced earlier. um, they were talking about like, how do you recover from a bad worship set? I said, you don't, you embrace it. Sometimes you just need a bad worship set.
that's
Same
good.
thing, like sometimes you just need a bad writing session and just be like, well, that sucked, we're never going to do that again. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
so
man.
like you just want to create spaces and avenues where you can learn and develop your creativity and your sound. See what works for you, like down to the tones. Like, man, I really like when you play that thing on the Moog there, or
Yeah,
oh, I really like I really like the key of E minor, or maybe I like I like this or that or the other. You get what I'm saying? Like, I like
yeah,
this drum pattern. When you kind of start digging into that kind of stuff, you can find that you actually can articulate what you like musically, what you like sonically, um, and begin to develop that.
yeah,
Because here's my desire. My desire is to be able to start going to churches and being like, oh yeah, this is that church's sound.
yeah. I
You
love
know
that.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
one thing I appreciated about Prague. when you were there, man. Like
Yeah.
I was like, oh, they've got a sound,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, like, and they truly do. And there's some churches that are, definitely have that, but I want to see that all over the place.
Yeah.
Like I understand not all churches can do that. It takes a certain skill level and talent level and all that. But man, I want to start seeing hubs of like I want to go to Louisiana and hear like Zydeco worship.
Yeah, man.
Like
I love
this,
that.
that's what I want to do. I want to go to Kentucky and hear bluegrass. I want to, just like let's we could. There's so much more.
Well, yeah, dude, I think that's the thing too. And I love that you're going there because I think that some of these worship leaders need permission to say
Yes,
it's allowed.
yes,
Like the Lord's not saying you have to do it one way,
right,
like
right.
you're allowed to experiment. You're allowed to experiment with the sound that you grew up on. Like you don't have to be like, oh, like can't do it. That's not the worship sound. Like no, you're allowed. You're allowed to go to those places. I think that blesses the Lord. Like I feel like we've got to just have more teaching on that. Yeah, Ray Hughes is someone I feel like who really jumps in on that, like harnessing the sound of where you're
Yes,
from, and and a lot of people, but like it's allowed, it's needed, like we need like your history with the Lord, your
yes,
history as a musician coming through. And the other thing that you said that really got me is, you know, I just thinking about this idea that if you want to cultivate a sound, it can't happen just on Sunday mornings.
right.
You know what I mean? It's like if Sunday's your only expression, oh, sorry. If Sunday's your only expression, that's the problem. You know what I
Yes,
mean? And we've got to be creative and choking on something. That's amazing.
it's fine.
We've got to be creative and find other places to try things, to mess up, to have all this stuff, and a lot of times pastors are like, you know, hesitant to let you try something on Sunday morning because, that's not the place for it.
Right.
I get that all the time. It's like, well, yeah, maybe that's just not the place, and that we need to cultivate something where we're playing together, we're having fun
Yes.
together, we're experimenting, we're exploring like the different sounds. And, I don't know how many times I've had musicians come that have just like had their own sound, unique sound. And instead of like, and I feel like that's for me when as I'm pastoring a worship ministry, the number one goal I have is hearing people's stories, hearing where they come from. What music do you like? What have you been, and like, and allowing that to dictate like the sound of us as a team. You know what I mean? And like bringing that together, not forcing people into a box that um was created and maybe good for this season, but in 2 years that's not going to be the sound that everybody you know what I mean. It's like
Right.
you're always going to have to be chasing something if that's the way you're going to do it. You're always like I found this with bass players. I know we got to go here, but I like like it's like if your bass didn't, there was this season where it's like if your bass didn't have like the overdrive, like or whatever on it, it's like, well, then you might as well get off the stage. You can't do it. That's
Right.
worship based. You know what I mean? And it's like, but for how long?
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm interested in, is seeing worship communities find that sound, walk in what God has, like flow as a team, and and take the good from the main movement that's happening, but don't try to be it. Just enjoy
Exactly.
it and receive it,
Exactly.
and then ask God to be faithful to have you walk in your calling and all that stuff. So yeah, man, it's amazing.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. I think there is so much more. And for anyone that's watching this, I think you have the ability to find the sound that's inside of you I mean, it's a simple process. Spend time with the Lord, spend time in the Word, be guided by the Holy Spirit, and listen to good music. That's number
That's it,
four.
dude.
Listen to good music. It
Yeah,
will help you, I promise you.
yeah, man.
And a last one, a little extra tidbit is not everything has to end in a loud, uproarious build. Sometimes the Lord just likes a good little backbeat
Yeah.
and just the pocket. But I will say have gained an appreciation for the build.
Come
So
on. Yeah.
I know some drummers. I have really really scared some drummers.
Yeah.
And so if you're watching this, some of those drummers, I'm sorry for always telling you to stop building so much.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
you can do it just at the right time.
Well, dude, that I feel like that changed our worship ministry. Like when you came in and we're like, we don't always have to build. Like I remember like it inspired our whole team.
Mhm.
Me and our drummer specifically in that season, like he was like he grew as a musician because of that,
Yeah.
super unique. So yeah, man, that's a good word. Those are the five. Was that five?
I think so. It was
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, man. They're
The five
amazing.
keys to worship.
Those are the five keys to worship. That's right there.
Right.
That's amazing. But well, thank you, man. And I appreciate you taking time. And just for all you are, man, all you've done and for being such a good friend too. And I appreciate you, buddy.
Hey, and listen, I'm going to put a little plug out there. If you're watching this, you need to really, really get behind Worship House. He didn't ask me to do this, but I really believe in Worship House. I believe in what Phil's doing, and I think it's so needed. And so I just, however that is, if you want to support him financially, you want to invite him out, whatever, man. What he's carrying is extremely helpful in all kinds of different aspects. But if you got a worship community, you got someone who needs some help, get this man. I mean, just look
Oh,
at him. You just wanna just give him a big hug. But man, here's one of the things I know about Phil, and this was just one of the observations I saw as soon as I met him. He was surrounded by young musicians that were good people, had good heads on their shoulders. Talent was out of the stratosphere. Like, a lot of times you get around and it's like, man, every single one of them were really good. And they all really, really loved the Lord and they really loved Phil.
oh,
And
yeah, man.
when you see that, you immediately are like, okay, this is a person that you can trust that really has an impact on people's lives. And he does that everywhere he goes. So all that to say is Worship House is something to get behind, to support. And
Thank you, man.
I believe
Yeah, I
it.
appreciate that. I appreciate it, buddy. All right, man. Thank you so much. And we'll just what a pleasure to have you on here. And yeah, looking forward to all the stuff in the future. So some
Oh,
amazing
yeah.
things coming up. So all right, buddy. Thank you for joining us. And if you want more information on Worship House, what we're doing, what we're up to, you can go to worshiphouse.co and get all the information you need. And please check out some other podcasts, some other videos, and some other things going on with Worship House. Bless you guys. Have an amazing day.